So how much house can I afford? Well, this question actually translates to how much can I borrow from the bank for most people, and we'll answer that here. This is part 4 of our first time home buyer series dedicated to new Canadians, and we'll go through the framework and the things you need to know so that you can answer this question for yourself and really take control of your home buying journey. We'll go through sample calculations, considerations, and if you stay until the end, we'll even go through an affordability calculation to help you ease your fears of rising interest rates. So let's do it.
Money does not possess me. Money? Money? Or is it money? Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Hey, I'm Hervin Pesa. If we haven't met before, welcome to the channel. I'm a financial planner based out of Calgary, but just like you, I'm on a journey to building wealth and financial independence. I'm on a mission to help you build your wealth so that you can live a life full of meaning and one that's full of joy. I share weekly videos diving deep into money lessons that we were really never taught in school. So if you want to join us in this journey, consider subscribing and be sure to hit the bell so you never miss any of the lessons. When potential clients book their initial consults with me, one of the first questions that I ask is why? What's gotten you to look for help at this point in your life? And one of the most common responses lately has been because we're buying a home or we're moving into our first house. I would usually ask how much the house is that they bought or they're planning to buy. After they give me the number, I follow up with a quick question. Why? Or how did you come up with that number? I would get ums and ahs and I don't knows, but the most frequent response, that's what I qualified for. That's what my mortgage guy told me to get. That's the most that we could get from our bank, and that's what my realtor told me to do. What I want to help you with in this video is to get that answer cold. Before you even go shopping, see, next to who you marry, the home you purchase could probably be the biggest financial decision of your life. And yes, you can use an online calculator or a calculator from your bank app. And by the time you're seeing this video, we might even have one publicly available at ourfirstplace.ca. But let me walk you through how or why these lenders have these guidelines so that you can become more aware and take control of your home buying journey. Because it's not about maxing out. You need to learn to decide. Assuming that your credit score is good enough to get the loan, lenders are concerned about 2 ratios. Your gross debt servicing ratio and your total debt servicing ratio. We'll go through each of those, but let's look at the why first. Why does the lender care? And more importantly, why you should care. Let's look at this ordinary piece of paper. Let's say this is your paycheck. Most banks would cap out at about 39% of income going to direct cost of home ownership. But the target for most banks are actually between 30 to 32%. So a third of your paycheck is gonna go to the home. But most Canadians have other debts, such as student loans, credit cards, car loans, and when combined with direct costs of ownership, lenders would cap that out when they consider the other loans at about 44%. So they'll add another 10% in consideration for other debts. After taking that into account, nearly half of your paycheck is gone. The next line item to consider, taxes. Let's say that you pay 30%. So if you follow the max limits, 2/3 of your paycheck has already been spoken for. So you get 26% of your income for groceries, for cable, for dinner, for experiences, and saving for your retirement. So if we follow those maximums and those limits out of your whole pay, this is what belongs to you. If you work 8 hours a day, only 2 of them are for you and living your life. That's why these ratios matter. I won't give you the limits that I would prescribe because I don't know you, but here's what I need to tell you. These measures are in place to stop borrowers from over borrowing to the point where their home is taking such a big piece of their paycheck that they can't afford to live their lives. out of this 26%, half should be going to your savings and your investments. So this is what you got left for enjoyment. Please consider that. Again, I won't give you limits or prescriptions because I don't know you. However, I will say this. At this stage of my life, I'm comfortable with my current home, but my wife and I dream of living and owning a ranch one day. And of course, that's an aspirational goal. We want to have stuff to upgrade to. We want to level up, but I will not do it unless my income is high enough and the deal is good enough that it would only take 25% of our after-tax income. That's meaningless to you because that's my goal, and it's also the hurdle that I'm putting on myself before I can upgrade or move up. However, it's not a fair hurdle for first-time home buyers, especially younger ones and new Canadians. But I'll cap myself at that 25% going forward because I want a bigger piece of my income left for my life, my investments, my legacy, and my contributions to other people. I have written this down in my personal financial plan because I will be tempted, and I know it, I'll be tempted to buy up. So this will be a framework that is an internal guardrail for me, Hervin Pesa, no one else. So how do they actually run these calculations? Let's look at the gross debt servicing ratio first. It's your direct cost of owning the home, at least from a lending perspective, divided by your annual income. The lower the ratio is in comparison to your income, the better this looks. We'll work with Martha and Joey as our example for the rest of this video. The first thing that we need to do is determine their gross income. See, if you're buying a home with your spouse, you need to combine your incomes together. If Martha makes $70,000 a year and Joey makes $50,000, they have a combined household income of $120,000. Please note that this is your gross income, so before taxes, before deductions. Because this is a simple ratio, we just need to multiply the $120,000 by the current GDS cap of 35% according to CMHC. So 35% times their income equals the direct cost of home ownership. So in their case, it's $42,000 a year or $3,500 every month. But that does not mean that they're gonna get a mortgage with $3,500 in payments. There are other costs to owning the homes. They have to take off heat, property taxes, and if it applies, condo fees, or at least half of it. Obviously, this would vary from home to home because how big your house is would impact property taxes and how much it's gonna cost to heat the place. But let's say they already know the community and the home sizes they want to buy. They're looking at the properties which would cost about $300 every month in property taxes and $150 every month to heat. They're looking at single family homes, so there are no condo fees, but if there were, they'll have to add whatever half of that is going to be. In this case, the most they would be able to qualify for is a mortgage with a payment of $3,050 based on the GDS. Let's move on to the next ratio, which is the total debt servicing. The current cap is at 44% based on CMHC. So that's $52,800 based on Martha and Joey's income, which translates to $4,400 every month. The calculation is similar to the GDS, except now we have to take into account the other loans that they have to pay for every month. Joey has a car loan of $600 and Martha has one too. Her student loan payments are at $300 every month. That means they have $1,500 in other liability payments every single month, and that's taken off the $4,400. Along with property taxes and heating costs, the maximum monthly mortgage payment would be $2,450 based on the total debt servicing limits. Now, the lender can give them a loan based on the lower of the two. You must meet both thresholds to qualify. I use 35% and 44% because the CMHC has capped it like that right now, but lenders would actually prefer to run the calculations at 30% and 40% for the GDS and the TDS. It really depends on how comfortable they are with the current market conditions and their overall business strategy. They could be more or less restrictive depending on what's happening currently. So you might find that when you look around, look at different bank sites and different mortgage brokers, they could come up with different numbers. If I redid the same calculations for them at 30% and 40%, the monthly cap is $2,550 for the gross limit and $2,050 under the total limits. If you wanted to be more conservative, you can run these ratios at 25% and 35% respectively, and you can make that your own bar. This can become your internal hurdle. My point here is to show you how you can run the calculations, not to give you the exact answer. You will still need a mortgage professional to do these. Don't just rely on some random guy from YouTube to do this stuff for you. So let's continue with Martha and Joey. Assuming that they have good credit scores, it's common to get 5-year fixed rates below 2%. So let's use that as our rate. If the maximum payment available for both of them is $2,450, the biggest loan to be had is $578,000. But you must also meet the minimum qualifying rate, also known as the stress test. Today, this is set at 4.79%. This would drop the maximum loan available to them to $428,000. The heart of the stress test is to qualify based on higher rates, because it's very likely that you're going to experience an increase in rates in the future. This is 2.79% higher than what you're actually paying for, and you would still meet the ratios today. So that stress test drops the mortgage you would qualify for, but it also bakes in the possibility that rates would go up. So that should actually add some reassurance for you. As I promised, this actually matters, not just for affordability today, but affordability in the future. So that's affordability from a cash flow standpoint. Of course, this would be useless if they didn't have funds set aside as their down payment. The down payment is based on property value, and they would need at least 5% for any amount under $500,000 and 10% for any amount borrowed that goes over that. So even if somebody has the ability to cash flow a $700,000 loan, if they don't have at least $45,000 set aside as a down payment, they will not be approved for the loan. This brings me to a very important point. Do not, under any circumstance, allow your lender to include all of your liquid assets in the down payment calculation. Only include what you're actually comfortable using as your down payment and locking away. See, once you put the cash into the property, you won't have access to this capital. You still need to maintain your emergency reserves. If Martha and Joey have $40,000 in savings, but they needed $15,000 of that as their 3-month reserve or their rainy day fund, they only actually have $25,000 for their home purchase. Don't ever put everything into the house. I hate using superlatives, but the only way to find out if I'm wrong in this opinion is if you end up putting everything in and get cash flow tight after. And at the end of the day, that's nasty. Just know that I've been there personally, and I've seen clients end up there, and it's never fun. You know, just putting everything in to make the deal work, it's not ideal. If you want to learn more, check out the resources in the description below or visit ourfirstplace.ca. Until next time, stay aware, take control. I love y'all. Peace out.